Hello, good morning, wherever you're joining me from. My name is Praiseful, and welcome to Pfthinks episode 32. I'm so excited that I'm coming again today, and I'm coming your way. Well, how are you doing today? And I want to say thank you once again. And this is live from Praiseful International Studios, Lagos, Nigeria. Okay, so we are still looking at the science of parenting a WHIZKID. And if you've been following this particular series, you will know that this should be, the 11th episode of this particular series. Okay. How are you? For those of you on social media, for those of you on Instagram, for those of you on Facebook, and for those of you on YouTube, thank you very much. Now, today, I've decided to veer a little bit into understanding characterization and the way the templates that produce another icon. So today we're looking at how do you raise a Bill Gates. Now, if you've been following us, you will know that so far, I've looked at how Elon Musk was raised. I've looked at how um, Mark Zuckerberg was raised by his parents and the role of parenting in their lives. And today, I'm looking at how Bill Gates was raised by his parents. Now, why we're doing this is for you to understand that success can be scripted, to know that there is a science of parenting that if you follow the same principles you can actually produce the same result. Now, we're not saying that you produce another child who is like Bill Gates, but you will produce a child who is able to maximize himself. Now, Bill Gates, everything he does today, you could see the role his parents played. Now, every time I do this research, the more I do this research on parenting, the more I'm marveled and I'm amazed, at how much we can learn, and how our templates of parenting can totally affect who a child becomes. Now, so what does it take to raise the second richest man in the world with insatiable appetite for knowledge and someone who loves to solve problems? Now, a lot of us know that Bill Gates was the richest man in the world for a long, long, long time. And since the pandemic started, not there is no name that has become more popular in the world or more famous in the world as the name of Bill Gates. Now, of course, we know that most of the things said about him, is a long conspiracy theory, right? And people are free to say whatever they want to say, but what they can't take away from him, is the power of the social good that he has done through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. If you have watched in the series on Netflix of Inside the Brain of Bill Gates or something like that, you will be shocked at how his upbringing affected the kind of man he has become, and how much of good he has done, especially when it comes to Africa. A lot of people don't know that Nigeria. We cannot talk about polio eradication in Nigeria without talking about Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation. We cannot talk about providing toilets in some other African countries, toilet facilities, without talking about Bill Gates. I mean, all across the globe. Now, what is it about this guy, that makes him give his wealth away? Does he have an agenda? He's not a political office holder. It's not a military leader. He has no army, but some people believe that Bill Gates single-handedly can reduce the world's population. I don't know what his intention will be, but those are propaganda and conspiracy theory, which I don't want you to bug yourself with. But how do you raise someone who can rise to that level in a way that it becomes indispensable to our world? Now, I'll tell you a bit about him, then I'll tell you the parenting templates that raised him. Now, we'll try to look at what his parents had to say, what his father had to say about his childhood and the templates and their belief system and how he affected him. Now, a lot of us do not know that there are certain things you do consciously and unconsciously that will ultimately affect who your child is going to become. That a child did not fall from the sky. Bad behavior in the child does not fall from the sky. So when you see young people who insult adults on social media, right? It wasn't, I mean, you check their upbringing and you realize that a lot of the parents usually are talk down people in their presence, right? So when you hear, oh, we're a woke generation, is a generation that talks about, oh, we can criticize anything. And I'm not against criticism, but how you criticize is where the problem is. When you criticize blindly without understanding context and you criticize by becoming very insulting, then I have a problem with that, which is why I have realized that oftentimes people try to control or correct other people. They hate to be corrected by themselves. Now, Gates was born in Seattle, Washington on October 25th, 1955. His father was a prominent lawyer, and his mother served on the board of directors for First Interstate Bank System and the United Way of America. Now, let me stay a little bit on this. When we were talking about Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, one of the things we realized about their parents was that their parents were professionals, and their exposure affected how they raised their kid, right? Now, again, we're seeing that your exposure level can destroy your children without knowing, right? That the exposure level of Bill Gates' parents, played a huge role in who he became, because at some point when he dropped out of Harvard and he wanted to start his company, and I think he needed $1,000 or $1 million, of investment, his mother guaranteed that. So, question I always ask is, if your child needs of $1 million, can you guarantee your child, right? That's a critical question, because parenting, the exposure of a parent can affect who the child becomes. We say that the parent is like the aquarium, your child is like the shark. The shark cannot outgrow the aquarium, right? So if you are not exposed, if you don't open your mind, if you don't expose your mind to knowledge, if you are close-minded, you can affect the potential of your child, because your child may not be able to take risk because of your close-minded worldview. Now, Bill Gates' father was a prominent lawyer. He was not just an ordinary lawyer, he was a prominent lawyer, which was why he actually wanted his son to study law. His mother served on the board of the directors of First Interstate Bank System and the United Way of America. Now, you know what it means for a woman to rise in that age and time, to be on the board, of a bank, to be on the board of several investments. Bill Gates' mother was basically an activist and a philanthropist, kind of, right? So if you understand what it means to have a professional father and a mother who is well exposed, then you will understand how Bill Gates was raised and why he's very competitive and why he behaves the way he behaves and how he rose to become who he has become. Now, but beyond his father and his mother, Gates' maternal grandfather was J.W. Maxwell, a national bank president, right? So even his maternal grandfather, which means, so you can see his mother worked was on the board of a bank, but her father was the president of a national bank. What that means is Bill Gates is from a generation of the learned, is from the creme de la creme, is from a generation of the exposed. It's not from a poor background, right? Poverty is not a problem. You can be poor and be open-minded, and you are very exposed. But a lot of people are poor mentally. There is nothing as dangerous as mental poverty, right? Because when you're mentally poor, your mentality is going to be poor, and it's going to affect your child. So everything your child does, you're going to stop him, because you cannot stand his capacity to dare things. Question status quo, because you yourself, you are afraid. Now, if you check the heritage of Bill Gates, you will find pioneering, you will find social good, you will find exposure, and you'll find professionalism. Now, you want to check your heritage and ask the question, what exactly is in your heritage? The people who came out of your family, your father, your grandfather, on both sides, who were they, right? So if you check, you would realize in your lineage that can speak into your future. And if you don't like what you see in your lineage, you can be a new ancestor that can change it, right? So when I check my lineage, for example, we have always been non-conformist. My father was very bold, blunt, disciplinarian. I'm slightly different, but you could see pioneering in my DNA, right? So you want to pause right now and say, what existed in your foundation that you have, right? You could see exposure, you could see wealth in Bill Gates Foundation, you could see pioneering, you could see his mother, you could see social good and philanthropy in this background, right? And you can see how that shaped the kind of man he has become. Now, Gates was small for his age and was bullied as a child, right? But the family encouraged competition. One visitor actually said it did not matter whether it was art or pickleball or swimming to the dog. There was always a reward for winning in their family, and there was always a penalty for losing. Now, it's because I mean, if you look at his mother, you know what it means to get to the board of a bank, right? And the maternal grandfather to be the president of a national bank. Then you look at his father, who was a prominent lawyer. So these were people who understand what it means to wage war, to fight wars, and to win war. So you see, when the whole world was in uproar, powered by propaganda against Bill Gates, he was not faced at all, because he's a child. He was a man who has been used to fighting wars and winning wars, right? He must have observed his parents and see how they won wars. So he was not faced by what people had to say, especially the people who did propaganda against him, right? So in the family he grew up in, there was always a reward for winning, and there was always a penalty for losing. So no matter how mundane what Bill Gates wanted to do, or in his family, there was always a reward for winning, right? So they promoted competition right from his family. So you could understand why Bill Gates was number one richest man in the world for a long time. So when people say he couldn't stand competition, I mean, that was how he was raised. Now, at 13, follow this, he enrolled in the private Lakeside Prep School, where he wrote his first software program. Now, he was living in America, not Africa yet. His parents registered him in a private school. Now, if you understand the cost of private education in America, it's not a piecemeal, right? But his parents had the awareness to understand that this was a special child and public education will not cut it for him. Now, if he had gone to public school, maybe he may never have learned almost immediately software programming at that era, right? In that age and time. But his parents put him in a private school. So that his parents had the financial security to invest in his future. Now, and that ties perfectly to what Mark Zuckerberg's father said. Mark Zuckerberg's father said that if you are financially secure, your children can take more risk because they are not afraid of failure, right? Exactly the same thing we're finding in the background of Bill Gates. So you can see similarities between how Bill Gates was raised, how Mark Zuckerberg was raised, how Elon Musk was raised. So it means this is a science. This is a template that we all can follow, right? And you can afford to be poor. Okay. Now, Gates and his friends, Paul Allen, Rick Wayland, and first business partner, Kent Evans, were caught exploiting bugs in the operating system of a particular computer to operate or to obtain free computer time. And after they were caught or exploiting bugs in the operating system, because they wanted to operate free computer time, right? So they were suspended. They were banned from actually not using the computer, right? So the three of them actually formed a company, their first business, right? They formed a business together after the four of them were suspended, right? So if you check the quality of friends he had, they were also equally friends who were interested in computing. They were interested in doing, what he wanted to do. I remember, there was a narrative of when he was thought to be antisocial, and they got him a girlfriend and they said he should go on a date. And on the first date, Bill Gates asked the girl a question to say, the last Masters, what did you score? And the girl said, oh, maybe she scored like 80. And Bill Gates said, to the girl, if you have not started dating and you're already scoring 80, when you start dating, your grade will drop. And that sounded very insulting, to say, who talks like that on a first date with a babe when you want to talk about flowers, you want to impress a babe? For him, everything was about intellectualism. Now, Bill Gates got into Harvard in 1973, right? So when people say he dropped out of Harvard and they say, oh, I would drop out of school, he did not drop out of Uni Ilorin. He did not drop out of Unilag. He did not drop out of University of Ado-Ekiti. He did not drop out of Kogi State University. He dropped out of Harvard. Now, what you need to understand is not everyone can be admitted into Harvard. For you to be admitted into Harvard means that you have demonstrated some form of competence and capacity that is above the average human brain, right? So, the getting into Harvard was a big deal. So, he got into Harvard College in 1973. He chose major. Of course, his father wanted him to be a lawyer, having you know what I mean, because his father was a prominent lawyer. Naturally, again, as parents, you want to impose your will on your child. But guess what? I mean, how can you be studying law? I mean, in Nigeria, we know that people who study law basically are people who didn't like mathematics, right? But this guy, right, chose pre-law major, but he took mathematics and graduate level computer science courses. Who is that person that will be studying law and be taking mathematics and graduate level computer science courses? I mean, for me, if there's a course that will not afford me to do math at all, I will be so glad to take on that course. But this guy chose pre-law. I mean, that tells you about awareness of where he was going from it with his life, because he knew he had fallen in love with programming, and he knew that it would need a bit of math, and computing for him to successfully function in the future that he had seen, right? One of the things I was said about my Bill Gates was child, and he would disappear for days, I'm thinking, and there was a narrative about his mother, who had asked him to come for breakfast, and she met him. He was thinking, told him, Bill, come and take lunch, and still did not respond by evening. So he didn't go for breakfast, he didn't go for lunch, because he was just sitting down at the basement meditating. And by evening, his mother got angry and went in there and said, Bill, please, you didn't come for breakfast. Your lunch is cold already. Will you come for dinner right now? And he said, Mom, I am thinking. Don't you think? Now, if your child said that to you, you would say your child was insulting, and you're going to beat your child, flog your child, yell at your child, But his mom just left him alone, right? That he had a bit of independence as a child, because they knew exactly that they could trust his decision making. Now, he chose pre-law in Harvard, but he took graduate level computer science. So when you send your child to school and your child is doing some other extracurricular that you don't like, you want to find out, why is my child doing this? Could it be that his passion is different from the course he's studying, right? Gates left Harvard after 2 years to create the future of Microsoft with Paul Allen. And of course, you know how Microsoft changed the world forever, right? And how he became the richest man, and how he left Microsoft to now go and work full-time with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Now, when you listen to Bill Gates, you could see how rounded he is. You want to talk law, this guy will talk law. You want to talk medicine, this guy will talk medicine, and he's not a doctor. You want to talk climate change, Bill Gates is there, and this guy is not a graduate of geography. He seems to be rounded in everything, and he said that whatever affects humanity, that's where he wants to be. Now, the question is, what can we learn from the parenting system that produced Bill Gates? Now, his father, William Gates Sr., he gave some parenting tips on how Bill Gates was raised and how his children was raised. Number one, never limit your child's independence. Never limit your child's independence. Now, his father said that they allowed Bill to be himself because they realized there was an independent-minded child. So they decided not to break or crush his spirit. So he had a mind of his own, and they promoted that, right? That a lot of us, we cannot allow our children to be independent because we're basically the ones controlling and remote controlling them. So you control where your child goes, how your child does things, what your child does, who your child talks to, so your child does not have a mind of his own. So you cannot even afford for a 9-year-old to go across the road to buy something because you're afraid that something is going to go wrong. So you have 15-year-olds who have by themselves because their parents do not trust them, or they do not trust the society to protect them. Now, we forget that many of us walk to school as 6-year-olds in this same Nigeria, right? So never limit your child's independence. One of the things you must never do is to break your child's spirit. So if you check this, you realize that we have this in what Mark Zuckerberg's father said. We have this in what Elon Musk's mother said, right? So if you check these three billionaires, you will find the same thing, that their parents allowed independent mindedness, right? So it's a classic template for parents who will raise global icons. You see, your emotions must not determine your parenting style, and your emotion must not determine the interpretation of what your child is doing. So consistently, when parents say to me, my child is rude, is rude, is rude, is it that your child is rude, or you cannot phantom the way your child is relating with you because you of the what you have been taught in the direction of right and wrong. I have moved beyond right and wrong into peace and progress, and it has helped me relate effectively with my children without feeling offended, when they question me or they challenge my authority. Number two, when you are not sure of what your child is doing, get professional help to understand your child. Now, in Africa, when we do not understand children, oftentimes the first place we go is to the house of prophets or pastors or imam or religious leaders. Our religious leader is not a child psychologist, right? Now there are professionals who are therapists, family life therapists, child psychologists, who can help you run psychometry, interview your child, and advise you. When Bill Gates' father and mother did not fully understand him, they thought he had a mental health problem. They took him to a psychologist who ran a bit of evaluation and told them that this boy, leave him alone, is independent minded and is strong-willed. They said, let him be and support him. That was a professional verdict, right? So they have the awareness to use a professional. When you do not understand your child, please use a professional. You cannot pay rent on proxy. You cannot pay rent in accidentally. You cannot pay rent out of emotions. You cannot pay rent on assumption, which is why you need to go get the WHIZKID combo for this month. www.iampraiseforward.com/WHIZKID. You need to get that and recover and script your child for success in 21 days. Now, number three, show your children that impossibility is nothing by helping them master what they are naturally good at and allow them stay curious, right? So what Bill Gates' mother and parents did was that there are areas that Bill Gates was not naturally good at, right? But they kind of encouraged him to try it out nevertheless. So Bill Gates tried out music. Bill Gates can play lawn tennis. Bill Gates can do a whole lot. So in the areas where he's not naturally gifted at, they still allowed him, or they still encouraged him to develop capacity in those areas. So when you hear Bill talk about medicine, when you hear him talk about environment, climate change, you understand how he got to that level. They develop in him an insatiable appetite for knowledge. So Bill Gates knows something about almost everything, right? So don't just say, oh, my child does not like math, and just leave him alone. No, you can encourage him and enable him math, right? So he may not naturally like it, but you can encourage and spark his curiosity, at least to know something about it, right? So it's important to show your children that impossibility is nothing. They allowed his curiosity to remain intact. What you must not kill in your child is ferocious curiosity. Your child must be able to consistently ask questions. A lot of us cannot stand the ability of our children to ask questions. So we kill their ferocious curiosity. Now, they ensure that his curiosity was intact. So ensure that your children believe that everything is possible. So never tell them this is not possible, this cannot be done. No, tell them this can be done. Maybe it's not for your age yet, but I know you can do it. When your children have a can-do spirit, they can dare everything, anything. Number four, help them try new things so that they can develop a growth mindset and learn from failures instead of being scared of them. His father said they taught Bill Gates never to be afraid of failure, but to understand that there are lessons to pick from failures, right? So it said they allowed them to try out new things. So Bill Gates, he tried his hand on trombone. He tried his hand on trumpet. He tried his hand on lawn tennis. He tried out new things, right? So don't just be stuck. A lot of our parents, our children, a lot of us as parents, our children don't try out new things because we don't try out new things. So you can't swim. Your father did not swim. Your mother did not swim. Your children are unlikely going to swim because you are not daring yourself, right? So I dare you as a parent today, try out something new. Don't live a triangular life of religion, of workplace, and home. No, try out new things. Try to go skiing. Try to learn salsa using videos on your YouTube. Try to, new things. Try a keyboard. Try music, try to sing, try to dance, try to do something that almost makes you embarrass yourself, right? But do it nevertheless. What that instills in your child is a growth mindset to say, I can do anything I lay my hands on, and you will produce hardworking children who never give up if you allow them try out new things, right? Try out new recipe, try out new way of cooking, try out new way of setting the table, new way of sleeping, just try out something new every time, right? Number 4, never. Now, let me go back a bit to number 4, right? So when you see Bill Gates move from law, right, to IT, from IT to philanthropy, and in philanthropy is aggressively pushing money in the direction of healthcare, is pushing money in climate change, is doing environmental sanitation by providing toilets, all across Africa. When you see all these things, you want to ask yourself, what is this guy's area of specialization? Now, you can see why he does all these things, because his background afforded him the opportunity to try out new things. Number 5, never force your children to meet your expectation. That was what his father said. Said, we never forced Bill Gates to meet our expectation. Now, he said they weren't expecting him to become a billionaire, but they expected him to complete college, at least finish Harvard. But when Bill Gates said he was dropping out after year 2, they allowed him. They wanted to talk him out of it, but when they realized that his mind was made up, they supported him. A lot of us never support our children in their passion because our children are not doing it the way we expect them to do it. So your child wants to sing. Your child is not singing about Jesus and you're a Christian, and you are very, very troubled, right? Because you want your child to be a chorister, right? So you refuse to support him because he's singing about love, forgetting that the world needs to actually sing about love, right? Now, I'm not in support of children who sing lewd content and content that destroy the minds of others, but if your child wants to sing something that is outside of your known expression of gospel, the best you can do is to support your child, right? So never force your children to meet your own expectation. So when you say, I had straight A's, my children must have, now you can encourage them to do that. But when their decision begin to contradict what you thought you wanted, allow your children be, right? Many of us have our preference of the course you want your children to study. You have your preference of who you think they should marry. You have your preference of the kind of school they want to go, you think they should go, right? You have your preference of the caliber of people you want them to meet. But when your children begin to go contrary to this, as long as it's not sinful, let them be. And when you're not sure, please make use of a professional. Never force your children to meet your own expectation. And number 6, show them the importance of community by getting them involved in charity early. Now, Bill Gates' mother, was a social. Okay, so I'm looking at some of the comments. My mom wanted us to learn how to swim while we were staffs in UI, but that never agreed because it's hydrophobic. Okay, a friend in secondary school, and salary, I gave her. So fantastic. I love that feedback from social media. Fantastic. I really, really agree with you. Now, so you realize that your children can get scholarship, by learning how to swim, by mastering music. They can. So you need to allow them try their hands on new things. So number 6, Bill Gates' mom was known for a philanthropy. So Bill Gates' mom taught him the power of community. As a matter of fact, Bill Gates' mom read the book of Luke, a portion of the Bible, to Bill and told him that to whom much is given, much is expected. that the more you have, the more you must give to the society. So when people think that Bill Gates wants to control the world, the Antichrist, 666, and all those kind of theory of if you add his name together, he will give, I mean, funny theories in Nigeria. And this is what embarrasses me about Nigerians, that, you know, many of the people creating these theories, right, you can't really figure out what they have done to make Nigeria a better country, right? You can't figure out exactly what they have done to transform their country, but they think they've earned the right to sit down and talk down Bill Gates and all kinds of things, right? Now, I'm not against, everybody's free to hear their opinion. I'm not against them, but I'm just saying that if you don't study his background and his upbringing and the way he was raised, you won't understand why he does many of the charities he does. His mother said, his father said that their mom does a lot of charity and they get the children involved. So if they had to serve food to the poor, it was Bill and his sisters who did the serving, right? So as a child, he saw firsthand, charity. The same way I do a lot of charity right now because I was born to meet my mom doing a lot of charity. I mean, almost every Sunday, we gave food to the poor when I was growing up, right? In fact, till now, my mother is going to be close to 80. If you get to her house, my mom is still training strange people that we don't know. They live in her house. Every time I go in there, I see new people. And my mom is saying, oh, this is somebody somewhere who cannot go to school. And she's the one training them, right? And it's the same way that, you see all kinds of people around me because I practically learned firsthand from my mom the power of charity and the power of community. To whom much is given, a lot more is expected. So you need to show your children the importance of community so that they don't think about accumulation. So when you see our people like Osh Poppy, who were stealing people's money, but they were flaunting it, life is not about your car. Life is not about your shoes. Life is not about the house you live in. Life is about the lives you are able to build, right? That how many lives have you changed? That if Bill Gates withdraws his money in funding polio, funding the eradication of malaria in Africa, even though we still embezzled a lot of the money, which is why I changed strategy recently, right? To say they will no longer give direct cash. Our people were embezzling the money. If he withdraws his investment in healthcare, right, Africa may struggle big time, right? Because a lot of people criticizing him are not even aware that the polio immunization their children still right now is thanks to Bill Gates' investment, right? His endowment is why we are still able to afford. You can go to the hospital and your child gets free immunization or pays a token, right? So, but it was down to what his mother taught him, right? On the power of community. So the same way, when your children want to do their birthday party, instead of just splashing the cash and flooding social media, can you take the budget of their birthday and get them to, the less privileged and get them to serve free food on their birthday? That was how Bill Gates was raised. Birthday time was a time to do charity. His parents did a lot of charity, especially his mom, and he observed it. Which was why the moment he started making money, his mother reminded him of the power of community and why he needed to give a lot more to the society. To whom much is given, a lot more is expected, right? So you can see how his upbringing shaped the kind of person he has become, which is why you will find out that Bill Gates does more charity than Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk because they didn't have that in their upbringing. But Mark Zuckerberg at some point had gone to Bill Gates, so he's been mentored by Bill Gates and he has started giving. And Elon Musk, of course, he learned a lot about reinvesting in himself, and investing in things that can transform the world. And we talked about that, when we were studying the parenting template that produced Elon Musk, right? So show your children the importance of community by getting them involved in charity early so that they know that when they make money, it's not to buy the latest cars alone or to do blings or to show the latest shoes, right? Those things, well, maybe for showbiz people, it's not a problem. I don't have a problem with that. But can they sponsor people through school, right? That if you live in Africa and you see the crisis in Africa, you have lost the right to think of yourself and yourself alone. You need to take responsibilities for others. There are who can go to school. There are people who can feed. I receive requests regularly of someone who says, I've not eaten a meal in the last 48 hours. Can you help? Right? During COVID, all kinds of requests. We still have to do it. So, which is why it is recommended that you set aside 10% of your earnings and push it in the direction of charity at whatever level you are. Right? If you set up 10% and you put in the direction of charity, you'll be amazed how many widows you can help, how many orphans you can help, how many of the less privileged you can take care of. Now, if you show that as a template, your children will follow suit, right? And he that gives to the poor lends to the Lord, right? I love what Osei is saying. My dad is a charity king. He pays school fees for many over the years. He has helped many. He's a strong giver and he has a strong work ethic. I'm sure you picked that from your father, Osei, as well, right? So we need to understand that children learn from what they see us do. Bill Gates' mother modeled charity to him. So it was not a coincidence when he started Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. As a matter of fact, Bill Gates' mother died of cancer. A lot of people don't know that was the greatest pain in his life till date. And that was why Bill Gates spent a lot more on healthcare than any other thing. So when he began to talk about funding vaccines for corona, people think that he wants to give 66. What will he gain by depopulating the planet Earth? This guy is not a president or head of state, right? People just think that he has that extraordinary power that will make all the world's head of state who have autonomy, who have independence, right? Who have sovereignty, will just surrender to him, surrender the army to him, because he can bribe all of them. When people make statements, you begin to question the level of education and exposure and the ability to think and reason things out. That someone will just show up and that person will control the entire world, and he has no. They say his bill is 666. Obama was everybody's antichrist today, right? We need to begin to sit down and say, what can we learn from him? How can we script our children to become another Bill Gates who will transform the world? And the last thing that his father said, number 7, show up at all time. His parents taught him to show up, right? They show up every time he had to go to school. They show up during open day. They show up during inter-house sport. They showed up even when he was playing lawn tennis with his friend and he became competitive. They show up consistently for him. So when he needed a loan, right, a guarantee, a bank facility, his mother showed up. The question is, do you show up for your children? Now, it has been proven that parents who show up for their children produce more healthy children and they produce more mentally sound children, right? So his mother also said, Bill, you must show up for humanity. Now, so you can see Bill Gates shows up during pandemic. Bill Gates shows up during climate change, during environmental, show up during sanitation. Everything that concerns our world, everything that concerns the economy of our world, IT, innovation, Bill Gates is always showing up. Why? His parents taught him to show up. And his father said, every parent must show up consistently for their children. Question is, do you show up for your children? So we've looked at the 7 core principles that produce Bill Gates that you can apply on your children and transform your children. Never limit your child's independence. When you're not sure, get professional help to understand your child. Show your children that impossibility is nothing. By helping them master what they aren't naturally good at, you need to show up, be there for them to master it. Let them know you can do it. You can do it. I mean, I literally coach my children by myself, and get them to stay curious. I want them to ask me questions at all times, help them try new things so that they can develop a growth mindset and learn from the good, okay? And never force your children to meet your expectation. Show them that the importance of community by getting them involved in charity early, and you need to show up at all times for them. Now, there are some quotes by Bill Gates, about 3 of them. He says, as we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Now, his parents were always empowering people. So you could see how many people Bill Gates has made rich and how many he has helped up, and how now he drives, the giving pledge that says every billionaire must give, a certain percentage of their wealth back to the community. Number 2 of his quote that I love, he says, if you mess up, it's not your parents' fault. Don't whine about your mistakes. Learn from them. Where did he get that? As to what his father said, right? That they allowed him to make mistakes and learn from his mistakes. As a matter of fact, they asked him a question. They said, what if when you left Harvard, what if the future you wanted to pursue did not work? He said, I would have gone back to school, right? And now he could make that statement because his parents would still have funded it anyway, right? So he says, if you mess up, it's not your parents' fault. Don't totally blame your parents. You don't need to whine about your mistakes. Learn from them. These are critical, timeless lessons we need to learn. That you see, failure is part of our development growth, in developmental plan. I call it research and development. Every failure is a feedback. Every failure is a research and development tool. So don't whine and sit down over failure. Don't kill your children because they failed a particular subject. You need to help them understand what they don't understand and help them bounce back again. And lastly, he says it is fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to eat the lessons of failure. Bill Gates has failed at several things, right? But he keeps bouncing back. He's a cat with 9 lives. He keeps reinventing himself, and that's why he has been a number 1 richest man forever before Jeff Bezos. I mean, people have overtaken him several times, but he's always bounced back, right? But if you check many of these quotes, you could trace them back to the way he was raised. How are you raising your children? There's a child in your hand. The question I keep asking is, if Bill Gates had been born into your family, would he have become this Bill Gates? Would Microsoft has emerged? Will Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have emerged if he had been born into your family with the template you currently use? If your answer is no, most likely you are trampling on the potential of your child, which is why you need to open your mind to learn. The 21-day program, which is the WHIZKID combo, praisforward.com/WHIZKID, right? It would show you how to heal from the trauma of your past. It would show you who your child is. It would show you how to psychoanalyze your child. It will show you how to write the child. Show you the 4 parenting quadrant, which is the seed owner, the seed handler, the seed environment. It will show you practically what to do. There's a book in there you must read every day. There's a book for your parents in the combo, for your children in the combo. In fact, 2 books for your children in the combo, covering the children, the preteens and teenagers. There is a program there on sexuality education for children from ages 3 to 10. There's another for ages 13 to 18, thereabout, around the year, like 1 year program. Now is robust, is loaded, but instead of $181, you can get it for $80, which is about 36,000 naira, thereabout, as against 82,000 naira, right? So you can go get that. You will learn how to, step by step, on how to parent your child and what to do in 21 days to get the best out of your child, bring your child back into your world, rent a space in their brain, right? And help them become the best version they can become. Let me tell you, trapped in every child is an Osama and Obama. The one you speak to is the one that will come out eventually. Do you have what it takes to raise a Bill Gates? If you don't have it, you have learned the template that was deployed to raise this global icon that our world will never forget, right? You can raise the same global icon if you follow the similar template, but it must start with you. Thank you very much for joining me on another episode of Pfthinks, episode 92. When we come back tomorrow, we will take on another aspect of parenting and how you can get the best out of your parenting potential. Thank you very much for joining me. For those of you on YouTube, for those of you on Facebook, for those of you on Instagram, I really, really appreciate you. The fact that you stay awake all the time. And for those of you in North America who are joining, for those of you in Dubai, China, and then the person who joins from India, I want to say thank you all the time for joining me on this show. And for those of you going to watch this after now, remember that you have all it takes to help your child maximize its potential. Your child is a global icon. Please don't let him die local. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.